Hello, good morning, everybody. Welcome. My name is Allie Depew with Inspire Classroom, and we have two really special guests for you today. We have Christy Pilgrim and Joshua Lisbon, and we're here with an update from the MPG Ranch. Come on over, you guys. I'll get out of the way. So we're going to start a little bit with Joshua giving us a little rundown on the MPG Ranch. Take it away, Joshua.
Hey, everybody. Yeah, my name is Joshua Lisbon. I work for MPG. I'm the Education and Community Outreach Manager there. Ooh. Oh, look at that.
There we go.
And so MPG is located down the Bitterroot between Lolo and Florence on the east side in the Sapphire Mountains. And we are a 16,000 acre conservation property. So I don't know if, for acres, right, is about the size of a football field. So we're like 16,000 football fields or 25 square miles. So we're huge. And we have, some really wonderful habitat down there. We're set up like a biological research station. So we're studying everything that you can possibly think of, from mycorrhizal fungi all the way up through mountain lions. And we've got projects going on all of that. And I'm happy to connect with you today around the Mountain Lion Project.
So, Joshua, just really quickly, I know that we have the Easton Colony School on the line with us this morning, and they're actually wondering, how much snow have you had so far this season?
We got some snow, and then we got a warm spell, and so this weekend it just rained. So we've got snow up high, but not much down low. A little disappointing at this point in the season, because our season will begin on December 4th, and I need snow to track and to train trackers. So it's going to be really important that we have that.
Well, why?
What's that?
Why? Why do you need snow?
I need snow because it makes it so much easier to follow mountain lions around through the forests. They are a soft-footed creature, and so they tend to float on a lot of surfaces and don't leave much evidence of their passing. So it's good to have snow.
So for everyone that's out there, I notice we have groups joining us every moment. There is a little button at the bottom of your page where you can type in questions. And so go ahead at any point if you have a question about what Josh was saying, or if you have a question about the challenge, especially maybe as you're working through the IC challenge steps that you're working through, go ahead and type those in, and we are happy to answer those. So I do have a few images, Joshua, and I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit more as we go through. Oh, well, here's another picture of the MPG Ranch. Just a little bit about some of the tracking that you have done with mountain lions. So I've got a few pictures of them.
Sure.
Maybe a story or two that you've while tracking.
I've definitely tracked individuals to trees that I gave them ample time to get away, and we were out with a group doing tracking 101 on the ranch, and I tried to give that individual as much space and time as possible to get away from us, but I went right up a tree, and so we tracked it just to the base of the tree, and everybody got a really cool interaction with the mountain lion that day, which was exciting for all of us. Took a few pictures and then let it be. And then probably one of the most exciting things happened to one of my trackers last winter. He was checking on an area that we knew was a den site, and he walked up to this. It was a slash pile, so the stuff left over after logging, and they make use of that for shelter. And so there were bobcat tracks up to it and bobcat tracks away from it, and he figured that there's nothing in there, and so he went and, poked his head in there and got screamed at by a mountain lion that then jumped out of the slash pile over his shoulder and took off into the forest and scared the crap out of him. So that was an exciting moment for him. And somewhere out there's video of this, because we had a camera on that slash pile. So I haven't seen it yet.
I have a pretty cool video that you shared with me earlier, and I'm wondering, I think maybe the students might be interested in seeing this, because I know that there are mountain lions on the ranch, but there are also a lot of other animals.
Yeah.
So, let me see. There it is.
Ella, do we need to scoot out of the way? Can they see?
Oh yeah, why don't you guys pop on out of the way.
Oh, here we go. important to do like that. And here we have a mountain lion, also known as the mountainous loin. I love that face.
Oh my gosh. So what do you think was happening there, Joshua?
I think that's a really cool example of just, some species interactions. Having the mountain lion there, obviously very aware of the bear, and the bear, there's no way the bear wasn't aware of the mountain lion too. So they're just giving each other space in an area where they overlap.
Mm-hmm. So
it's really cool to see that, yeah.
So we actually have some breaking news today, and this is why we have gathered everybody together for the breaking news. And I want to introduce Christy Pilgrim. And Christy, do you want to tell everyone, before we really get into the news, kind of who you are and what you do?
Sure. So my name is Christy Pilgrim, and I'm the laboratory supervisor for the Forest Service's National Genomics Center, located here in Missoula, Montana. And we've been working with Josh and MPG Ranch for about the last 5 years on helping them, through DNA, figure out how many mountain lions they have and who's who on the landscape. And so our lab works on a variety of critters, several carnivores. We do lynx and wolverine, and we do a lot of mountain lion work. So this has been a really fun project to work on.
Awesome. So why are we here today? What happened?
Well, we're here to talk about having discovered new individuals.
What?
Yay!
You're
Thanks.
kidding me. We discovered new individuals?
Yeah, thanks
Like
to Christy's
New
work.
cats.
New cats?
Yeah.
So give us a little history of who's on the ranch right now.
Well, a few years ago, we had thought we had 6 individuals in our study area, and we thought that was a lot. And then the next season, we found 5 more. That put us at 11, and we thought that was a lot. And then this last winter, we discovered 8 more.
8 more.
So we have 19 individuals that we know about. We have lost some of those to hunting, so we're down, I think 3 or 4 from hunting, and then we've lost potentially 2 kittens just to whatever, weather events or something, just to life out there in the forests. So it brings the numbers down a little bit, but yeah, 19 known individuals in our study area is a large population of mountain lions.
And Josh was able to tell that some of those samples, we had 4 that were from kittens this year,
Yeah.
right? That had kittens.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
pretty
So
exciting.
because of what we see in the field, we're able to add a whole other layer of understanding to the genetic work.
Yep.
And then we can take that genetic work and pinpoint where on our maps in the study area all of these samples were taken, to get an idea of how individuals are overlapping, and how ranges overlap, and who's raising young. And we have mountain lions that we've followed from when they were kittens all the way up to several years later they're fully mature and breeding and having young of their own. So we get to tell these unique family stories now.
So I have a fly through that some of you may have seen and some of you may have missed it, but this does not include this year's data. Is that correct?
This includes last winter's data. Yeah, we put this together after the season.
Okay,
Conference last year.
so do you want to go ahead and sort of narrate what's happening?
Yeah, here we are falling from space towards Miller Creek. And so you'll see these little waypoints pop up. These are some of our access points. So there goes Miller. And so you'll see areas, the lines on the map in orange are where our mountain lion tracks. So here we are now looking Miller and then south across the ranch property. And the ones that are more bold are this year, or this past season. And the ones that are more faint are from previous seasons, so you can see them layered on top of each other. So all of those lines are where mountain lions have walked around in the landscape. or at least where we found them walking around in the landscape.
What is the red line?
I believe that would be the ranch boundary. Not much going on out there in Woodchuck 2. It's also really hard to get to late in the winter. Quite a bit from Woodchuck 1 and 8 Mile area, which is great to see. We come around onto the ranch. We had quite a cluster down there in the south zone on MPG. We had what we now know is a large male set up shop down there and was just hammering mule deer all winter.
I see a river on the bottom. What river is that?
That's the Bitterroot River. So we're flying over MPG and coming back around towards Miller Creek. You're looking into kind of like the Davis Creek drainages there, which are, I mean, there's a lot of activity in there. That's where a lot of the young are being raised.
So I have a question for everybody that's watching right now. I'm looking at this in...
Here we go back up to space.
Whoa! Now, I noticed a few things about this map that are interesting for me, especially when I'm thinking about mountain lion habitat. Mm-hmm. And so I'm curious, what are you noticing about where the tracks are and the type of habitat that we saw on the map? So this is something that you can go ahead and type in. Think about that for a second, and we'll see if you have any answers. But just so we can orient everybody really quick as to what we're looking at here. Hi, guys. Hi. Here's Lolo, Montana. So Missoula's up here, and here we've got the Bitterroot River, and here's sort of those brown hills above Florence, and then we get back up here. Oh, goodness gracious. Run over here. And at this point, we're back into the Miller Creek drainage, the Davis Creek drainage, and also is that some Forest Service land way back.
Yeah, we end up back in quite a bit of Forest Service land. If I can, it's weird.
It's very challenging.
It's like a weather map here. So this is the Miller Creek drainage coming around, and then we're on to ranch land over here. But back over here is Forest Service land. Well, that was very strange. Try to make that work.
So I have one school that mentioned that a lot of the tracks look like they're on the back of the property, or maybe back towards the forest. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's a very good observation, and I'm wondering,
yes.
Is that something that you typically find?
Well, there's a couple of things going on there. Yes, we do find a lot of that. It's great habitat. A lot of that in the Davis Creek area is protected habitat, so they don't have any hunting pressure in there, which is really nice for the cougars. We don't see as much activity on the front side of the ranch because we're also not sampling as much on the front side of the ranch. We have a large herd of elk that winter there that we don't want to push around during this time of year because it's an important time of year for them to conserve calories. So if we had really heavy heavy tracker activity on there, then we'd be shoving elk all over the place. So we don't want to do that. So myself and one other individual will track on the front side of the ranch, and we do find, I mean, there are a number of mountain lions that make use of that area. So we're just not sampling as heavily there, but we know they're there.
Oh, I have a couple really good thoughts from some other schools as well. It looks like the Easton Colony School notices that the tracks are mostly in trees and along streams, so water is readily available with cover.
Very accurate. Yep. So everything needs water, and those prey species are going to come down to water to drink as well, and the mountain lions need water, and so a lot of that activity does happen along streams. We find a lot of activity in those areas.
Mr. Hawthorne, or Mr. Williams' class from Hawthorne Elementary says that they noticed that there seems to be tracks in the green forest areas much more so than in the brown grassy hills.
Yeah. So again, that has to do with the fact that we're not sampling as much on the front side of the ranch in those brown grassy hills, but some of what we would see in that area is that if there isn't a lot of cover, they don't make use of those zones. So they like drainages with good cover. And if they're going to be out in the open at all, they like sagebrush or bitterbrush that provides decent cover. So we don't find as many tracks just like out in the open grasslands. And we also don't find them coming down into the river bottom because due to agricultural activities in the past, it took a lot of vegetation out of those drainages, so there isn't good connectivity between the higher elevation sites and lower elevation sites, and that's something that MPG is trying to restore on the property to create better connectivity, and that will change how they use the landscape.
Oh, very interesting. Okay, so the next part that I want to get into a little bit is the interaction between Joshua and Christy.
Mm-hmm.
So let's
scoot in.
Let's scoot in.
Come on in. Oh, and let's see. We actually have a question though first, and this is from a classroom that wants to know, why do the tracks zigzag through the trees?
Oh, because mountain lions go wherever the heck they want to go, and my experience of following them is they don't tend to be. They're not going super directly from A to B. They tend to zigzag around and loop-de-loo and make figure eights, and we're backtracking them 1 minute and we're forward tracking them the next minute. So they kind of they wander around through their habitat, being very stealthy, and then when they interact or they encounter something that they're going to hunt, they try to sneak up on it.
Oh, that was a great question.
Yeah.
Thank you. And remember, keep those questions coming, everyone.
Yeah, when I'm following wolves or coyotes, they tend to be very linear in their use of landscape. They're going from A to B kind of clearly, moving in more straight lines, and mountain lions don't do that much.
Okay. Oh, okay. So you're out tracking a mountain lion, Joshua.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us what things you might be doing while you're tracking a mountain lion, maybe even collecting while you are tracking a mountain lion.
Yeah, so we are a non-invasive sampling project, so that means that we're not handling cats. So we're not there's no tranquilizers, there's no collars. That we're trying to limit our interaction with those mountain lions so that we're not disturbing them. We want to leave them alone. We try to backtrack rather than forward track, meaning we're going in the opposite direction so that, again, we're not pushing individuals around. We want to really give them space. We still run into mountain lions, we still see them, but we're trying really hard not to. And so what we're looking for out there to get the DNA to give to Christy is we're looking for hair, and we're looking for scat, which is the sciencey term for poop. So that's what we're picking up. And then so the scat goes from the field immediately into the freezer, because that seems to be the best way for us to be able to store it for a while until we can dry it out and give it to Christy. And then the hair samples go into little envelopes and just have to stay dry and at room temperature. And then I bring all of that to Christy as well. And she works her magic, and we then find out how many individuals we have.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead really quickly. We have so many questions coming in too, which are wonderful. But I want to show a video of you at the lab, because then I want to talk a little bit about what happens at the lab, and then we're going to go to questions. So keep those questions coming. But let's first of all share this quick video of Christy at the lab.
It's perfectly fine.
So after we've set up the PCR that has DNA template and the enzymes and everything that we need, these little tubes get put in these machines.
And what does the machine do?
This is a thermocycler. So what it does is you can think of it as like a big Xerox machine for DNA. So it's making lots and lots of copies, millions of copies of one particular region of the genome that we want to study.
Gotcha.
And we need to make enough copies of that region so that we can see it and we can work with it and analyze it.
Awesome.
And that takes about 3 hours.
In order to duplicate everything? Oh.
Oh, what were you doing there, Christy? Tell us more.
Right. So when Josh brings us all of these wonderful samples, the first thing that we do is we need to isolate the cells from the mountain lions, either from their poop or from their hair. And on the poop, what we're trying to do is get cells that are on the outside of the poop, because those were picked up on the intestines. Yay! In the intestines from the animal. So that way we can use that DNA to, first of all, we can identify that it was indeed from a mountain lion, because there are other animals out there on the property.
We sample them too sometimes.
And Josh brings samples of those too.
Purpose, yeah.
So maybe occasionally we get some bobcats mixed in, or some wolves and some other things. So first thing we want to do, squirrels, right, from the hair samples, right, not from the poop, but sometimes
squirrel poop is a very different deal.
So the first thing we want to do with the DNA is figure out what species left that sample, what species left that hair behind or left that poop behind. So then we can figure out all of the samples that are actually from mountain lion. And then the next step we want to do is figure out, are they from boys or girls, so males or females, and what individual it is, so that we can tell Josh, for example, in this last year's data, he has a female that he's caught now for a few years, female too. And so it's very exciting on our end to be able to look at the DNA from these samples and say, this is your same female that you've detected the last few years, and these are the samples that that match her.
Yeah, I think we first sampled her in the winter of 2012, 2013.
Yeah.
And she was a kitten then with her mother. Yeah. And she's the only one that survived out of that family group. Both the mother and her sister were both harvested by hunters. And then she's gone on to live now year after year. And she had her first, well, that we know of, her first offspring 2 winters ago, which is F9. And then she just had 4 more kittens this last winter. And so she's going strong, and pretty much, it seems like age-wise is pretty much in the prime of her life.
Right, and so that's one super exciting thing from us, is from the DNA we can identify individuals, and then Josh can use all of his great field data and knowledge to put that into context, right? And now we know maybe how old this female too is, for example, right? She's about, what, 4, 5?
Yeah.
You know, so we have some additional information that we can use for the study.
Yeah, so we can take all of the genetics that come back to us and pinpoint individuals on the map and overlap that and get a sense of ranges and who's where and where they're setting up shop and where they're hunting and where they're raising young and how that all works. And if we have questions about the parent-offspring relationship, we can usually clear that up just based on what we see in the field. Because we're able to take what comes back from the lab, and we have such a complete picture from what we're seeing out there in the field. Yeah,
this is really a unique and remarkable study from the standpoint that there is such amazing field knowledge that goes into all the DNA sampling. And so the two of those types of information work really well together to get a good big picture of, and how many lions you have living on the property, which has been fun.
Yeah, and then because of our extensive camera network, we're also able to get imagery of most of these individuals as well, which is also really unique.
Yeah, because a lot of studies that our lab is involved in wildlife doesn't have the luxury of such a great camera network as well to be able to see images of the individuals that you identify.
Yeah, it's really remarkable. It's one of those things where when I would run into them in the field all the time, I'm like, oh, another camera, and I was kind of creeped out by it. But then when I needed that information to be like, I have this data point. I know that we collected a sample from this individual right by this camera. I have a track going by, and then I can bring up that day really for the camera, and there it is. It was actually so much easier than I thought it was going to be. To just sort through all of that imagery and be able to say this is that individual.
Okay, I have a bajillion questions.
I bet.
So
I think a little bit.
I think that we need to address some of them.
Yeah.
Okay. Amazing questions, students, by the way. So I think we touched on this one a little bit, but I'm going to just let you maybe even go a little bit deeper if you think that there are other areas. So Mr. Graham's class at Chief Charlo wants to know what you're learning from tracking. What do you learn from tracking mountain lions? So we've talked a little bit, but go ahead and touch on that.
Yeah, I think the questions that we went into this with were, how do they use the landscape? And that's where like that fly through comes in, because we've been able to, with GPS units track ourselves and then know when we're on mountain lion tracks, so then we can layer all those up and make maps and have a sense of how they're using the landscape, which was one of the questions we wanted to answer. And then the other is, what is our population and how many individuals do we have? And that's what we're working with Christy to discover, because the genetics, like that's the way to do it. And so those are the questions that we really wanted to answer. And more questions will come up. Like we were just talking about some other things we could figure out.
And how many individuals now?
19. Yeah.
Identified.
Mm-hmm.
So another question from that same class is, how do the mountain lions help the MPG ranch?
They make it a wild and amazing place, and they keep various populations of other things in check.
Particularly the ungulates.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they're hunting deer, they're hunting elk, and sometimes horses too.
Wow.
Wait a minute, I think we better clarify that.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wild horses.
Okay,
Well,
thank
not
you.
like people's horses in their yard or anything. We have some
Good
wild
point.
/ feral horses on the property, and their populations are kept in check by mountain lions.
The rattlesnake 5th grade is wondering if the streams freeze in the wintertime, and if so, where do mountain lions get fresh water?
Thankfully, not the streams don't. We find that there are usually open pools back there that make it possible for them to get water.
That's great.
Otherwise, they'd have to go to the river probably.
What
but
would be
they
a
don't.
challenge about going to the river from?
Well, we don't have good cover for them, and so they don't like that as much. So we don't find those tracks making it down to the river. We find bobcats down there, but we haven't found mountain lions down there.
What is a mountain lion's favorite food in the winter? This is asked by Mason.
My guess would be whatever it can get its mouth on. I don't know that they're that picky, but they do seem to go for deer predominantly. Squirrels, grouse, whatever they can get.
Right. They're very adaptable, so
Yes.
they can eat lots of things, unlike some
Yeah.
other carnivores, which are more specific. So,
Christy, I'm curious, do you ever find evidence of different types of animals in the poo that Joshua brings you?
yes, absolutely. So when we're looking at the piece of poo that we want to analyze, inside that poo we find a lot of deer hair and elk hair, probably hair, from bunnies and
Yep.
squirrels and other things. We find bones. And so there's other researchers who sometimes want to pick through those bones and also try to figure out what, for a diet analysis, what the bones came from. So yeah, we see all kinds of things.
Very cool. How frequently do you find mountain lion kill sites? And do they only eat live animals, or will they scavenge on already dead animals?
Questions.
That is a great question. We find mountain lion kill sites quite frequently. So we're finding them, at least weekly. We have a number of individuals, and we're searching in such a large area that when the mountain lions are making kills, that all overlaps. So sometimes we'll find a bunch of them like day after day, and sometimes we won't find something for like a week or so, but we do find a lot of kill sites through the course of the winter. And what was the other part of that question?
Do they scavenge at all,
Oh.
or do they eat only live, fresh kill?
They prefer live, fresh kills, but they will scavenge. What I've seen for scavenging is younger individuals, like dispersing males that may not be great hunters or may not know an area very well, and will take advantage of honestly, what they stole was the bait for the eagle project in the winter. We got great imagery because he walked right up to a camera and swooped a deer and took it down into the creek drainage and consumed it. So we got good DNA off of that one. But we don't see a lot of that.
Do the mountain lions ever kill cubs if they're starving?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay.
We lost 2 cubs this winter. What was the cause of that, I do not know.
Has a mountain lion ever attacked one of your cameras?
No, they're curious about them. They'll come up and sniff them and check them out and stuff like that, but they don't seem to care that much.
Another one. But these are such
The horses
great
and the
questions.
elk, they mess up some cameras.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
They like the little rubber gaskets that go around it. The elk, they put tines right into cameras. Like, we've got skewered cameras. Like, stuff gets beat up by those guys, but not by the mountain lions.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Arrowhead is really curious if lions change color in the winter months.
Wouldn't that be cool? No, they don't.
You want to show the?
They are.
This before.
They are this color all year round. So this is a little mountain lion, but they are this brown color with lighter towards the belly. And when they are young ones, they have spots on them to help with camouflage. And they tend to be fluffier when they're younger too.
And they do have this little dark
tip on the
dark
tail.
tip on the tail.
And you'll notice that the tail is crazy long too, which helps them with balance. So as they're as they are, we've seen them like chasing deer through the snow, and it's deep snow, and so you have like tail smack one side of the trail, tail smack other side of the trail. So they're using it as balance as they go.
Christy, how does that mountain lion pelt feel?
It's parts of it are really soft, but it's actually it's not soft, fuzzy like a bunny, I would say, but it's nice and thick.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a couple schools, Box the Elder, I believe, and Chief Charlo are really interested in how do you tell how old a mountain lion is, and if you know what maybe the oldest mountain lion is that's on the ranch. Have any indications?
Oh, good question.
Yeah, we do. So the way that we're aging them is by when we first got a sample from that individual, and if we have imagery associated with it. So we can say, like, okay, we tracked this individual, we know that it was by itself and dispersed when we first sampled it, so that would say it's at least maybe 2 at that point, just to be safe. Mm-hmm. And then, however many years we've then sampled it again, we can add that on. And it's not that accurate, because that individual could be much older when we first sampled it and we don't know, but just to be safe, we'll say it is minimally like this old. And then other ones, like we were saying with F2, we know because we have pictures of her when she was a kitten, and we know that was her, and we can kind of guess her age within like probably months at that point. And then we keep resampling her, so we know. The oldest one on the ranch, I think, is probably F4, and we first sampled her December 2012, and if she was like at least maybe we'll say 2 just to be safe at that point, now we're 5 years later, and so she's probably about 7 or 8.
Otherwise,
just getting up there.
In animals, if they want to, if you find a carcass, you can use the teeth. Is usually how they can age animals.
Yeah,
but in this case, we're trying to do everything without
deceased mountain lions.
Yeah. So in this case, we're just going by when we first see them.
Yeah.
Do mountain lions ever leave the ranch and not come back? Box Elder's 4th grade, that's serious.
Yeah, for multiple reasons. They leave the ranch and don't come back sometimes because they get hunted when they leave the ranch, and then they're harvested, and we've lost that individual. And a lot of what we see too are males that are dispersing and kind of just moving through our area that may not be residents there. We just catch them 1 year because they're moving through, and when we'll never see them again.
All right. Oh, we have some interesting questions from Mr. Williams' class at Hawthorne. McKenna is curious, do mountain lions hide in the grass to pounce on their prey?
They are like a stalk and ambush type creatures, so that would be a way that they would do that, yeah. They like to sneak up on things and jump on them.
And Olivia is curious if mountain lions bring food for their babies, or do they teach them to catch prey themselves?
Both of these things, depending on the age. So when they're really young, they're hunting, they're nursing, and then they're hunting for them and bringing them food. And then when they're old enough, they all hunt together.
How far can a mountain lion jump?
40 feet.
Oh! That's awesome.
Isn't that crazy? That's like 2 lanes of traffic. So they could like clear 2 lanes of traffic, land in the median, and then jump again and get to the other side. And I have friends who have seen this happen.
So if you're at school right now and you look out your classroom window and you see a road, they could jump across that entire road without touching down?
Yeah, no problem.
That's incredible. Whoa. Okay, so how many litters will a mama have in her life?
Oh, that's a really good question. I mean, potentially I don't know when they start reproducing, but
probably around 2.
Yeah.
I think
and then
I read.
Like 13 that's kind of like upper end for wild. So in theory, they could have a litter every winter.
Well, and mountain lions are different than other carnivores
they don't have a breeding season.
Yeah, because they can breed all through the year. So mountain lions can have kittens at any time of the year.
We do see a lot of them in the winter, though, for whatever reason. Yeah. It just seems to happen that way. But they can, absolutely.
We have a follow-up question. Where would they most likely have their cubs? do they have them in dens or in a tree?
Yeah, what we're seeing is that they seem to make use of the slash piles for initial den sites. Like they'll tuck up in these areas just to be safe. And then once they can have the little sprouts out and about, they're just wherever at that point.
Oh, let's see here.
We got some good video.
Yeah, we just have these like adorable videos of mom going along and then like this little fluff ball like following her, you know.
Arrowhead is curious if you have come up with a max carrying capacity of mountain lions that the ranch can handle. And my understanding is that that's sort of what we're asking some of our students to do, because this is something that you're trying to figure
I won't tell. We're trying to figure this out. I mean, like for the students out there who are trying to discover this, like it's useful for us because we're not completely sure. We have a sense of what might be maximum for this area. It's largely based on food availability, but we keep finding more and more individuals that like have pushed our numbers. Like we're kind of surprised that we have the number that we do. Not all of them are residents there. Some have moved through, so that would bring numbers down. We've lost some for hunting, that bring numbers down. But we seem to have a pretty high stable population of mountain lions. So there must be really good food availability.
As a follow-up, the Easton Colony is curious if you know how many mountain lions are in the United States, and how is that population overall?
Fun fact. I don't know. Do you know?
No, thousands.
Yeah, there's got to be a ton of them. I mean, if there's
In the
19
western-
in our little tiny study area, goodness gracious.
Yeah.
They're doing pretty well.
Are they endangered?
No.
No.
They're species of least concern.
With the exception of the Florida panther, which is
True.
a subspecies of mountain lion.
Yeah.
That live in the Everglades National Park. But
Okay, this is a pop quiz for Christy and Joshua.
Oh, boy.
How many names can you think of for species and subspecies of mountain lions in the United States?
let's
Ready,
see.
set,
Puma.
Puma, cougar,
Mountain lion,
catamount, mountain screamer.
Yep, you probably know more. And then they go down into South America, so you get sort of other like black panthers, which is mountain lion-ish, and lots.
We got 5 right there.
We got-
Okay, 5 or 6.
Well, I'm curious, maybe some of you will come up with some other names after studying them and realizing maybe there's a better name for them.
Mountainous loins is already taken.
Mountain lions has already been taken. How long can a mountain lion go without food or water? Nova wonders.
I'm not sure what to tell you about water. It seems like they will kill something every week and a half, couple weeks, and then work on it until it's gone. And then there might be several days that go by that they don't get something. But I don't know in terms of their physiology.
Yeah, I don't know.
We can go a few days without water, a few weeks without food, and that kind of maxes us out. But I don't know what the deal is for mountain lions in that way.
Rattlesnake is wondering if the babies often don't survive the winter because of the cold. What are those factors?
Yeah, I mean, it could be anything. It could be like a really harsh cold snap. It could just be that the mother didn't produce enough milk for them when they were really small. It could be there wasn't enough food and the stronger cubs won out getting more. And so, accidents.
Predation, perhaps, by maybe avian predators if they're small, or coyotes or other things that might be able to
there could be any
get them
number
when they're
of
really
things.
little.
It's tough to be a small critter out there.
So you've talked about the cubs, but Rattlesnake's also curious if, besides hunters, are there other ways that mountain lions, and I would include adult mountain lions, are killed?
Oh, like accidents, sickness, vehicle collisions, and then sometimes there are negative interactions with wolves where they'll if there's a pack of wolves and one lion, that goes badly for the lion. If there's one of each, that tends to go badly for the wolf. So.
And you may not have seen this on the ranch, but I know other lion studies have shown there's sometimes like a dominant resident male that will fight with younger males to basically push them out of his territory, so they can get injured during those confrontations.
Oh my goodness. We've had some requests for videos of little fluff balls. So I think it is now time for us to take a moment.
We can do that.
Moment.
Yeah.
We have video. Josh has amazing videos.
We do. We've got so many of these too.
Okay. Let's see here.
This is brand new video, right?
This is
Sorry.
brand new video.
Bear with me
There's
for
some
a
other
second.
stuff on your resources, I think, for those doing the challenge.
Here we go. So I am going to make this nice and big, hopefully. And I'm going to also bring this over.
Oh. Yeah, listen to the vocalization. That's F2, the one I was telling you about, that we've been following since she was about the size of her kittens there. And now she had F9, her offspring from a couple winters ago, still with her, and this is her offspring from last winter. There we go. Last winter. They were like, I don't know, 15 through 19. They're one of those.
Mm-hmm. How old do you think they are there?
Oh, geez, hard to say. Like 7 months. And here comes F9. Not to be forgotten.
Sister from the year before, right?
Yeah, and boy, that'd be a mess to track that business. You know, mom goes through, kids go through, F9 goes through. There's be like a cluster of tracks out there.
They're all hanging out together.
Yeah.
How many cameras do you have on the ranch?
Ooh, 300-ish, somewhere in that ballpark. A lot of cameras.
I'm curious for any of the schools out there. Were you surprised by the sounds that mountain lions make? And
Yes.
have you ever heard that sound in the forest when you were hiking around and didn't even think that was?
Right.
This is for the students, yeah.
That's
Was
true for me,
a
for
mountain
sure.
lion?
Yeah.
I know the first time I heard that, I thought, oh, it's a bird. But now thinking back, I wonder if maybe...
How many times maybe you heard a mountain lion?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I didn't...
Especially in the winter forests when the bird activity is so much more limited. When you hear sounds like that, it's probably more likely to be a mountain lion.
Oh, I didn't even think about that aspect either. Well, we have just a few more minutes, and so I want to address any last questions that students might have. Oh my goodness! There's another one. Here's one from Will, and he's wondering, this is a really interesting question, Will. How come such big animals don't sink in the snow?
Oh, they've got fantastic little feet for that. And they do sink in the snow sometimes, for sure. Because they weigh a fair amount, you know. They're like kind of roughly human weight, give or take. But you've got these great, point at the camera here, these fantastic feet. And they are a soft-footed animal, and they will expand out in the snow to give them basically like 4 snowshoes under them, and because the weight's distributed on 4 points, they don't sink as far into the snow. So it really works out great for them. And then they have these awesome built-in traction devices in there, which I happen to be wearing one around my neck, and that they will sometimes get pushed out into the snow, and we'll find that, or they'll use them if it's really slippery. So you can see like that is a mountain lion claw, and it would kind of hinge in something like this and then come down to grab into whatever they're trying to grab into. And they're really sharp.
How long are mountain lions pregnant? How many months?
I want to say it's around, I'm not exactly sure. I want to say it's around maybe 4 months.
Yeah.
5 months is the gestation.
Okay, that's great. Joshua, why did you decide to study mountain lions? Rattlesnake students would like to know.
I started tracking critters in the forest when I was really small, so probably like, elementary school aged. And I went out with my father and would hike around in the winter woods and follow deer and things like that, because we didn't have a lot of mountain lions where I was growing up. But I did find some as I got older, and I was just always so fascinated with the stories that get left on the landscape. And so for me, it's like being a detective. You go out there and you can piece together all of the evidence to tell this really cool story of what happened. And so I've been fascinated by that my whole life. And the opportunity to study mountain lions was presented to me, and I just jumped on it because I'd been doing that for fun for years, and I loved it so much. And so to get to do that for work is just like an unbelievable treat for me.
That's so cool. And Christy, how about you? What made you become a scientist?
Oh, great question. I was always really interested in wildlife and natural landscapes. And in college, I took a really interesting course that had a component talking about how you could use genetics to further understand wildlife populations in particular. And I was just hooked. I thought that was so cool to be able to do. So that's how I started getting into this. So also a real treat for me because I get to do all the fun. I think lab work is really fun. So I'm not.
Drive me crazy.
It would drive Josh crazy. So for me, it's really exciting to go from a hair sample or a scat sample and then find out, oh, that's this animal.
Yeah.
And that's just really rewarding for me. So.
Oh, and it's fascinating for me to get that stuff back from you.
Yeah.
But I couldn't sit in the lab and do it. I'd go nuts. But I love that you do, and that it, because we let our powers combine and get this really intimate glimpse into the landscape and what's going on out there.
Yeah, combining them.
That's so cool. There's so many things that you can do in science.
It's so
just
cool.
One piece
so
or
many
another.
variations. Yeah.
So, how far away can they hear mountain lions? That is.
Ooh,
not
that's
Joshua.
I don't know.
That's another fun fact that I do not know, but I know that their hearing is incredibly acute because I have seen videos of them clue in on sounds and freeze mid walk. And I didn't hear anything, so I have no idea what triggered that, but it's just seems like the slightest thing, a little twig snap, a little something, they're so cued into the landscape.
Yeah. So when you and I go out in the wintertime, we have to wear big coats, and they definitely have fur, but really, how do they stay warm? Is that fur enough to keep them warm through the winter?
My assumption is that, yes
Yes.
it is, but also that they probably have to eat a lot too to just keep their metabolism chugging along. So
Lots of calories.
yeah, lots of calories making that all possible.
How many miles do you think a mountain lion could cover in a day?
Oh gosh, a lot. We tracked, following them around, we walked over 900 miles. So, and we didn't, not all of that was on mountain lion tracks. We found probably 100 plus miles of mountain lion tracks in that. But they can walk a heck of a lot more than we can in a day. It's so much easier for them to move through the terrain, especially in the winter.
Yeah, I think they had, with one of the radio collar, so a study where they had a male that had a radio collar and they could track him. I think he went, it was 300 and something miles in about 3 months. You know, so they can cover a lot of territory.
Yeah, and that would be walking and hunting and exploring new ground, and it's not like he's just
they're not just doing straight lines like as Josh showed. They're really exploring, so it's pretty far.
Have you ever been attacked by a lion?
No, and I hope never to be. My experience with mountain lions is, by and large, they are not very interested in us, thank goodness. So I have not had negative interactions with mountain lions, and I've had a fair amount of encounters at this point, been really close to them, and I'm out there all winter following them around. And my experiences have been, thus far, all positive. And so I'm glad for that, and I think it's nice to realize that, they're not safe, but they're not out to get you,
As a follow-up, how strong is the swipe of a mountain lion?
Ooh, good question.
I don't know. I could answer that for bears, but I couldn't answer that for mountain lion. I would imagine strong enough to take something down. I mean, they are crazy strong. They're just all muscle and sinew. So, I don't know, probably strong enough to kill something for sure.
How many cubs are born in a litter?
Ooh, that's a great question. We tend to see 1 or 2 most regularly. 4 tends to max things out. We have seen groupings of 5 go by a camera, which is a lot. That's kind of crazy. They will also adopt sometimes, so maybe that's what happened. But 4 tends to be kind of the upper end of what we see, and 1 or 2 is more common.
Here's an interesting question. What does MPG stand for? The MPG Ranch.
Not miles per gallon.
Are you sure?
I'm sure. Yeah. MPG stands for Max and Paige Gurnis, and it is the Max and Paige are the children of. Oh, things got dark. It is Max and Paige are the children of Paul Gurnis, and Paul Gurnis is the owner of MPG, and his kids. Yeah, he named the place after his kids.
Wonderful. Well, you know what? We have just blown by in an hour, and I want to thank you guys. I know that was really fast for some absolutely amazing questions. And thank you so much, Christy and Joshua, for coming to the studio and answering these questions that our students have. So, what? What's the date? We have a date for our next live day from the MPG Ranch.
January something.
It's
January 11th.
January 11th.
CSI.
Yes.
MPG.
CSI at the MPG.
Yeah, we are going to. The plan is to investigate a kill site, and
What? Like an actual kill site?
like where a mountain lion has taken down an animal. We're gonna check it all out, and we're gonna go out there with. We've got Craig Jordanay coming out too, so he's going to help us to age whatever it is we find, and maybe it's a collared individual too, so we can talk about how that plays into different studies on the ranch too. So
That is so cool.
Put it on your
Yep,
calendar.
mark your
Yeah, it's gonna be
calendars,
really cool.
and we'll have lots of information coming out about that after the Thanksgiving break. So happy Thanksgiving to everybody, and thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you soon.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Thanks, everybody. See ya.